Chapter 1. Driving by Desperation. The oppressive heat of the well's stone walls felt alive, as if the ancient structure itself sought to crush me under its weight. Sweat cascaded down my face, merging with the suffocating air. My thoughts churned chaotically, a maelstrom of fear and self-doubt as I grappled with the overwhelming reality of my life. Was this really the end? Was this how my story would close? The questions clawed at my mind, dragging me deeper into despair. Looking back, my days were mundane, filled more with dodging creditors than battling life-threatening situations. Yet here I was, faced with the existential abyss, staring at the corner of my mind where shadows shifted into something darker. The memories of a simpler, albeit pathetic, existence felt like a cruel mockery now. Each morning began with a gulp of self-pity, paired with the delicate art of avoiding ex-clients who harbored Olympic-level grudges against me. My belongings were an odd collection of necessities crammed into a battered sack that served as my dressing room, strongbox, and pillow. Life on the run wasn't glamorous, but it was mine if barely. It is true, I had once been a promising psychoanalyst, hailed in academic circles for my research on consciousness. My work had delved into brain fog and the fractured realities of post-great dementia survivors, a catastrophe that left millions in mental disarray and redefined the boundaries of consciousness studies. But my success came at a cost. Mr. Skinner, a patient I unofficially treated, became a textbook miracle gone wrong. While I cleared his brain fog, he was left paralyzed. His family's gratitude curdled into hatred, and they hunted me relentlessly. If they caught me, I'd be added to their doctors who failed collection, like some rare artifact. Heroism had its dark side too. I had eradicated sleep sickness from the Tamar Valley, a celebrated feat, until the cherry and berry crops, the valley's lifeblood, were destroyed in the process. My reward? Heroic status in journals, poverty in life. My reputation in academia remained untarnished, a paradoxical badge of honor for a man unable to afford lunch. While the world lauded my work, my inbox overflowed with rejection letters from clinics too risk-averse to hire me. Then came the letters. Handwritten, their ink delicate, almost taunting, they arrived at my door like relics from a time before technology ruled communication. Their messages were maddeningly cryptic, waxing poetic about untapped potential and doors to unimaginable opportunities. I dismissed them as pranks or elaborate scams, but the promises of wealth and a path forward burrowed into my mind. Against better judgment, I opened the last letter.
Dear Ziddy, in the labyrinth of your mind lies the key to your future. Your brilliant yet tumultuous journey has not gone unnoticed. I have seen your work, your struggles, and the untapped potential within you. To unlock a door to opportunities unseen, solve this riddle, and the path shall be revealed. In the place where duty and tasks combine, what is done, sometimes compensated, sometimes none. A journey taken within the mind to seek and to find what lies confined in every action, purpose, or quest. What drives us to give our very best? The answer to this riddle is your first step. Whisper it into the old web in dilema.com at dawn, and your journey will begin. Trust in your intellect, for it has brought you this far. The reward awaits the worthy. Yours in shadows, a fellow seeker.
As my eyes scanned the cryptic letter, disappointment settled over me like a heavy fog. The words, drenched in riddles and vague promises, offered nothing concrete, just another breadcrumb leading nowhere. I squinted at the cryptic letter again, doubt swirling in my mind like harsh desert winds. Is this worth it? I muttered, half hoping my brain would magically find the answer. Instead, my growling stomach chimed in with its own opinion. No food, no choice. Decision made, courtesy of hunger. With a sigh that could have powered a wind turbine, I trudged over to the overnight community library. The only place I could afford some peace and quiet, without ordering a coffee I couldn't pay for. At the front desk, I stood awkwardly in the library's harsh fluorescent lighting, a picture of a desperate man in his early 20s, who has clearly seen better days, if ever had any. My lean frame sagged slightly under the weight of a backpack stuffed with mismatched gadgets and tools, along with a wrinkled, slightly threadbare shirt and scuffed shoes. It told a tale of someone perpetually on the run from life's demands. The librarian glanced at me, clearly unimpressed by my appearance, waved me toward a dimly lit corner that looked more like a murder suspect's interrogation room than a sanctuary for intellectual exploration. Perfect, I muttered as I stepped inside, clutching the letter like it was some ancient treasure map. Or a menu for takeout. I was starving, remember? I began pacing the room, the letter crumpling slightly in my sweaty grip, as I repeated the lines of the poem under my breath, like some amateur detective in a bad noir flick. The beads of sweat on my forehead weren't just from the room's stifling heat. They were the product of my brain overheating. Hidden meaning, I whispered dramatically, half expecting the walls to start talking back. Spoiler alert, they didn't. In the place where duty and tasks combine, what is done? Sometimes compensated, sometimes none. I repeated the line aloud, my voice dripping with frustration. Sometimes compensated, sometimes none. I have none, no compensation, because I have no job or work. Ha! Ha! Ha ha! My laughter echoed in the room, a little too loud and a little too unhinged. The spider in a corner flinched. Then, like a lightning bolt straight to my overworked brain, realization struck. Yes! Yes! I shouted, nearly startling myself. It must be job or work. I stood there, chest puffed out and grinning like I'd just solved world peace, reveling in a small but undeniably sweet moment of triumph. Feeling optimistic, I moved on to the next line. A journey taken within the mind to seek and to find what lies confined. I furrowed my brow, contemplating internal quests. I searched online for answers about types of internal quests. Everything seemed to revolve around the divine, non-physical or supernatural. That's got to be spiritual, I whispered to myself, feeling a sense of clarity. The final lines of the poem loomed before me. In every action, purpose or quest, what drives us to give our very best? The pieces began to click together. Venture? No, it's not that simple. It must be endeavor, I said softly, the word resonating with purpose. Piecing the words together, I whispered aloud, testing the sound of them as if they might reveal their secrets in the air. Work? Spiritual? Endeavor? They clicked into place, snug against the theme of the letter, like pieces of a puzzle I hadn't known I was solving. Encouraged, I waited till dawn and searched in old web network for demella.com. I found a blank page with an input field. I entered work spiritual endeavor with trembling hands, half from the chill and half from the weight of expectation. The silence that followed was absolute. Nothing stirred. The page reloaded to the same old blank state. Undeterred, I tried again, bold letters this time. Still nothing. Frustrated and on the verge of leaving the library, I received an email with a job ad, psychoanalyst needed at Bluestone Prison. I stared at the ad dumbfounded. A job listing? Seriously? That's it? The sudden awareness struck me like a lightning bolt from the sky. This was what the cryptic letter had been guiding me to all along. A plain, unremarkable job ad. All that drama for this? I couldn't decide if I had to respect the sender's theatrical manner or just feel plain amusement at the whole thing. But as the initial shock wore off, unease crept in. This wasn't just any job ad. It wasn't listed on any portal, not even those sketchy forums where people trade Pokemon cards and questionable secrets. No, this was entirely off-grid. Who runs a private scavenger hunt to recruit a psychoanalyst? And more importantly, why me? Did they mistake my resume for someone else's, or were they just scraping the bottom of the barrel? Confused but intrigued, I decided to take the bait. If Bluestone Prison was part of some impractical trickery, I had to be there to confirm it. The walk through the driveway of the prison was unsettling. Cold concrete walls echoed with distant shouts. A guard at the entrance led me to the administration office, where a grizzled man with a clipboard barely glanced at me before shoving a pen toward my hand.
Sign here!
He barked. I hesitated, scanning the document. It was standard enough, asking for background checks and non-disclosure agreements, but as I reached the bottom, something caught my eye. Wait a minute, I muttered. My hand hovered over the page, tracing the fine print beneath the job offer. There it was, a strange insignia, a triangle with an oak tree at its center, and below it another cryptic message.
Purpose is forged where the mind confronts its shadows.
My stomach churned. This wasn't just a simple job ad. It was another breadcrumb, another layer to the puzzle I thought I had unraveled. I glanced up at the man, who now looked more impatient than dismissive.
Something wrong?
He grunted. No, just reading carefully, I replied, forcing a thin smile. As I handed back the clipboard, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd missed something crucial before. My suspicions deepened as I glanced around the room. Hanging on the corkboard behind the desk were a dozen similar job ads, all with innocuous titles. Custodial staff wanted, kitchen manager needed, and so on. But tucked among them were symbols, tiny but unmistakable, matching the ones on the letter. I stepped closer, feigning interest. My heart raced as I realized how many of these ads had escaped my notice before. Each carried fragments of riddles, symbols, or phrases, and none seemed like they belonged to any standard prison recruitment effort. What kind of place is this? I whispered under my breath, a chill creeping up my spine. The guard waved me toward the reception area with a curt gesture, and I stepped through a heavy, groaning door. What I expected was a modern office, a sterile but familiar waiting room. What greeted me instead was something entirely different. The air shifted as I entered, colder and heavier, like I'd stepped into the lungs of some enormous, breathing entity. The room was dimly lit, its medieval stone walls rising into a vaulted ceiling that seemed too high to belong to this floor of the prison. The architecture curved unnaturally toward the back, giving the unsettling impression that the room itself was hiding something or someone. Despite the ancient setting, an out-of-place, gleaming futuristic desk sat in the center, its polished surface eerily pristine. Two utilitarian chairs flanked it, offering no comfort, only expectation. At the other end, there was just the one back door, and it was made of frosted glass with almost organic-looking spiral patterns etched on the glass. There lay the darkened corridor of the prison offices behind it, and very faint echoes of something, footsteps or whispers maybe, that kept merging with the stone walls. Right away, a tickling feeling of unease spread all over me, as if the air itself was taking offense. I paid no attention to the feeling, and the focus of my thoughts stayed on the assignment. I approached the desk and rang the small brass bell which was on the top of the desk. The metallic sound was really crisp and broke the silence, its echoes spreading even farther than one could have imagined. I waited, the seconds dragging by like hours. To calm my nerves, I mentally rehearsed my checklist for the interview. Don't overshare. Mention only research papers, not experiments. Avoid speculating about great dementia or other historic disasters. Do not, under any circumstances, mimic accents. But although my concentration was absent, I returned to the real world and connected with the seemingly dead air. It seemed to thicken as I sat alone for quite some time. Several minutes slipped by, and so I rang the bell again. I waited in the silence, but no one was there. Thinking that it would help me to concentrate, I backed away from the reception desk and began to walk around. The hard floor under my feet felt different. Some of the stones had dried up entirely, as though the room had been left abandoned for years. I felt my stomach grumbling, and my hands shook from the vibrations of some stirring in my body. It was the kind of feeling I only get when I am about to meet. I shook my head and turned toward the back door, its frosted panes now catching my attention. The intricate patterns etched into the glass seemed to shift subtly as I moved, forming shapes I couldn't quite name. Beyond the door's glass, something stirred in the black depths of the hall. A shadow moved, not the casual shuffle of an approaching receptionist, but something deliberate and strange. Finally, I muttered under my breath, though the words felt hollow. Straightening my posture, I returned to the chair and forced a smile onto my face. A polite professional mask. My pulse quickened, but I held the expression. The sound of movement faded, leaving only silence. I waited and waited. No one came. I waited, but nothing happened. The back door remained stubbornly shut, its frosted panes hiding whatever shadows moved beyond them. My unease deepened with every passing second, the silence in the room heavy and unnatural. "Is there no one here?" I muttered aloud, my voice sounding small and out of place in the cavernous space. Just as I was about to rise and check the door myself, the sound of footsteps echoed behind me, sharp and deliberate on the stone floor. I froze, a jolt of alarm tightening my chest. I hadn't heard the door open. A woman's voice broke the stillness.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I twisted around, my heart pounding. A short, well-padded woman strolled toward the desk with brisk efficiency. She had a round face showing the soft signs of middle age, but her clipped, no-nonsense demeanor gave her a sharp edge. Her smoky brunette hair was neatly pinned back, revealing the faint sheen of sweat on her forehead. She was dressed in a long navy skirt, a crisp sky blue shirt, and an oversized state-issued coat. An iPad rested in one hand, its screen dark. Her voice was cheerful but oddly rehearsed, like someone trying to perfect a customer service tone.
So sorry to keep you waiting. I got delayed. Besides, I didn't think you'd be so punctual. AKA ahead of time.
She added, with a forced chuckle that didn't quite reach her eyes. I stared at her, trying to steady my breathing. The normalcy of her appearance clashed violently with the room's suffocating unease. Something about her presence didn't sit right. There was no way she could have entered the room without me noticing the sound of a door opening. Or so I thought. Confusion swirled in my mind. Was this still connected to the letter, the advert, the bizarre chain of events that had brought me here? Or was my desperation for answers making me paranoid? Despite my misgivings, I nodded and forced myself to go with the flow. I looked at her nameplate on her shirt. The letters of the engraving glimmered dully in the harsh, fluorescent light, but there was something off about them. I attempted to read the nameplate, but the letters appeared to squirm and dissolve like living things immolating themselves in understanding. I blinked and leaned closer, trying to make sense of it. The distortion remained maddeningly abstract, yet one thing I could see clearly. The last name was Jane.
Is something wrong?
She asked suddenly, her voice sharper now, like the edge of a blade. Her smile didn't falter, but her eyes locked onto mine with an unsettling intensity, as though she knew exactly what I was thinking. I pulled back and shook my head, my throat dry. "No, nothing," I said, but the words felt weak, as though they were slipping out of my control. The woman didn't move, didn't blink, just watched me with that fixed smile. In the silence that followed, the air grew heavier, colder. Behind her, the frosted panes at the back door seemed to ripple, the patterns within them twisting like something alive. I straightened my posture and introduced myself, keeping my tone calm despite the uneasy thrum in my chest. "Good evening, madam. My name is Ziddy Alfred, a professional psychoanalyst specializing in consciousness and manifestations." She stood unfazed, with wide blue eyes fixed on me. Those eyes held a kaleidoscope of emotions: distrust, resentment, uncertainty, and an unmistakable thread of dread. I told myself these were normal reactions to someone in my profession. After all, psychoanalysts delve into the mind's dark, uncharted corners, the places most people avoid even thinking about. She tilted her head slightly, her gaze flicking over my formal attire, the chainmail gloves on my hands, and the heavy backpack slung over my shoulder. Her lips parted, hesitant, before she finally spoke.
Just you?
Her tone was sharp, almost accusatory, as if my solitary presence was somehow a breach of protocol. "Yes, I'm all you need," I replied, forcing a confident smile while my nerves were anything but steady. In truth, I was disoriented. still reeling from the cryptic letter, the unsettling atmosphere of this place. And now her scrutinizing gaze. Is this an interview or some sort of gladiatorial group exercise? I wondered to myself. The tension in the room, thick and oppressive, as though we were opponents waiting for the signal to clash. The oppressive silence was broken by the sound of footsteps echoing through the cold stone corridors. Moments later, half a dozen people appeared at the doorway. One of them glanced around and asked,
"Are we late?"
Miss Jane, unflustered, replied curtly,
No, you're actually on time.
though her eyes flickered briefly in my direction, a subtle question hanging in the air. She straightened her posture and gestured toward the newcomers.
You must be the candidates.
The first to step forward was a tall, wiry man with disheveled hair and glasses that sat precariously on his nose. He fidgeted with the hem of his coat, his voice quavering as he spoke.
Hello. I'm Victor Langley, from the Psychological Forensics Unit in Paris. I specialize in cognitive disruption analysis.
He hesitated, then added nervously.
But this place is a bit more intimidating than I expected.
Miss Jane raised an eyebrow.
Intimidation will be the least of your concerns here, Mr. Langley.
Next, a sharply dressed woman with short cropped hair and piercing blue eyes stepped forward. Her posture was rigid, controlled, and radiated authority.
Raven Kessler,
She announced.
Counterintelligence PsyOps, New York. I'm here because I don't back down from challenges or anomalies.
Her confidence practically suffocated the room, and I couldn't help but shrink back. I felt her glance sweep over me like I was already classified as expendable. I averted my eyes, hoping not to draw her attention. The next figure, a lanky man with a perpetual smirk, waved lazily.
Name's Dean Carter.
He drawled, his Australian accent thick.
Mind Performance Tactics Sydney. Mostly, I just poke around in people's heads until something interesting pops out.
He winked in my direction, and I stiffened under Miss Jane's sharp glare at him. A young woman stepped forward next, her presence almost timid compared to the others. Her oversized sweater hung loosely on her slender frame, and she clutched a notebook to her chest as though it were a shield.
Hi,
She said softly, her voice barely above a whisper.
I'm Elena Zhou, Research Associate, Neural Empathy Division, San Francisco. I study how emotions transfer between consciousnesses.
Her voice trailed off, and she looked down, avoiding everyone's gaze. Miss Jane's expression softened ever so slightly.
You'll need to project more than that, Miss Joe, if you plan to survive here.
A robust, older man with silver hair and a face lined with age stepped forward next. He adjusted his blazer and spoke in a deep, calm voice.
Dr. Harold Kingsley, retired senior consultant from the London Behavioural Institute. I specialise in crisis-driven psychoanalytic evaluation.
His piercing gaze met Miss Jane's without flinching, and she nodded approvingly. The last individual was a stocky man with an unruly beard and a battered duffel bag slung over his shoulder. He radiated a kind of chaotic energy, his eyes darting around the room.
Marcus Hellstrom,
He said brusquely.
freelancer, worked everywhere, no fancy title, no stuffy credentials. I fits minds the way mechanics fits engines.
His words carried an abrasive edge, but his tone betrayed a hint of vulnerability. I stood awkwardly to the side, my gaze flitting between the group. Each of them exuded something I lacked: confidence, experience, and purpose. What the hell was I even doing here? Ms. Jane's gaze swept over the group, her expression unreadable.
Welcome to Bluestone Prison, or what remains of it.
She said curtly.
You've been brought here for your expertise. But let me be clear, your expertise alone won't be enough.
She turned sharply, her heels clicking on the stone floor.
Follow me.
We followed her down the cold, labyrinthine corridors. As the shadows stretched around us, she continued, her tone measured but tinged with something that made my skin crawl.
This is no ordinary assessment.
Ms. Jane said, her words hanging heavily in the air.
Behind the back door, each of you will enter the office individually. You'll be tasked with analyzing a particular phenomenon.
Her pause was deliberate, her expression unreadable.
At the end of the day, you will present your findings to me. Who best explains both the problem and the solution will move to the next stage of the job.
I felt the hairs on the back of my neck rise. The way she said it, particular phenomenon, sent a shiver down my spine. What exactly were we walking into? Victor cleared his throat nervously.
Ms. Jane, what sort of phenomenon are we talking about?
Her lips curled into the faintest semblance of a smile, but it wasn't comforting.
You'll see soon enough, Mr. Langley. Let's just say it will challenge everything you think you know.
My stomach twisted at her cryptic response. Suspicion prickled at my thoughts. What kind of job starts with such an unusual and ominous test? And why did I feel like the stakes were far higher than anyone here realized? As we moved deeper into the prison's ominous halls, I hung back slightly, observing the newcomers. They walked with varying degrees of confidence, some stiff with nerves, others feigning nonchalance. Each carried an air of tension that mirrored my own. Dr. Kingsley fell into step beside me. He leaned over and whispered,
Stay sharp, young man. Places like this, they have a way of revealing who we really are.
I nodded, swallowing hard. Let's hope we're ready for it, I mumbled, though I wasn't sure if I believed it. The air grew colder as we descended further into the labyrinthine corridors, the oppressive atmosphere gnawing at my already frayed nerves. The walls seemed to close in, and my own doubts pressed down harder with every step. And somewhere in the dark, unseen and waiting, something stirred.